Chapter 5.
And the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, When any man has a running discharge out of his flesh, because of his discharge, he is unclean, and this shall be his uncleanness in his discharge, whether his flesh run with his discharge or his flesh be stopped from his discharge, it is his uncleanness. Every bed on which he lies that has the discharge is unclean. And everything on which he sits shall be unclean. And whoever touches his bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And he that sits on anything on which he sat that has the discharge shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And he that touches the flesh of him that has the discharge shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And if he that has the discharge spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And whatever saddle he rides upon that has the discharge shall be unclean. And whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until sunset. And he that bears any of those things shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And whomever he touches that has the discharge and has not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And the vessel of earth that he touches which has the discharge shall be broken. And every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when he that has a discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and bathe his flesh in running water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day, he shall take to himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them unto the priest. And the priest shall offer them, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord for his discharge. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until sunset. And every garment and every skin on which is the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until sunset. The woman also with whom a man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until sunset. And if a woman has a discharge and her discharge in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until sunset. And everything that she lies upon in her menstruation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sits upon shall be unclean. And whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And whoever touches anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. And if it be on her bed or on anything on which she sits, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until sunset. And if any man lie with her at all, and her menstrual period be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed on which he lies shall be unclean. And if a woman have a discharge of her blood many days out of the time of her menstruation, or if it run beyond the time of her menstruation, all the days of the discharge of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her menstruation, she shall be unclean. Every bed on which she lies all the days of her discharge shall be unto her as the bed of her menstruation. And whatever she sits upon shall be unclean, as the uncleanness of her menstruation. And whoever touches those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until sunset. But if she be cleansed of her discharge, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that, she shall be clean. And on the 8th day, she shall take unto herself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and bring them unto the priest, to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for her before the Lord for the discharge of her uncleanness. Thus shall you separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. This is the law of him that has a discharge, and of him whose seed goes from him and is defiled by it, and of her that is having her menstrual period, and of him that has a discharge of the man, and of the woman, and of him that lies with her that is unclean.